welcome everyone to episode number 1 of Auto Trends. Welcome, Gideon.
Yeah, Lucas, what's up? What's up, man? Great to see you again. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, welcome, guys. Really exciting times. Auto Trends podcast. We are officially kicked off. I know there's been a lot of planning involved. Um, Co-host again, as I said, Gideon Williams, been in the industry for a long time. And Lucas Welk and I, we have been at this for a good while. And at the end of the day, we are pretty fired up to just share insights, content, guests from start to finish. I mean, the really focus of this podcast and this entire platform that we're launching is to equip you with the knowledge, the expertise, with what's going on in our industry from a parts perspective, from a technology perspective. We know technology is coming quick. It's been coming quick. And today, really the focus is just to learn more about where we're at in the industry, how we've gotten to where we're at today, and really just lay a foundation. Lucas and I have a ton of experience in this space in different sectors, and so we're excited to kick this off. We're excited to make this about you. And ultimately, please, we always want to start and end with, if you want a platform and if you're looking to get on some additional podcasts, your additional, run some, promo campaigns just about what you do, really enrich this platform, please reach out. The best way to get a hold of us is through our LinkedIn channel. It's just a quick message on there. At that point, we'll take you, to an email and get you all set up, and we'll see if we can't fit you into the schedule. So, yeah, excited for this. This is really a good time in our industry, and excited to make some shit happen, baby.
Absolutely. No, this is, I've been excited for this for a long time, Gideon, for us to get this going. And I know a lot of other people have. We've got a great lineup, I think, this year of a ton of people already that, people are banging down our door to come on the podcast to tell us what's going on in their own industry with their own organizations. And, no, I think it's going to be great. We've got some great interviews lined up. We're following the latest trends. We're staying on top of the news. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lucas. And the cool thing is really is that within the industry, right? We have the parts industry. You've got OE, you have aftermarket performance, you have commercial heavy duty. We even power sports. And what I think is really probably the most exciting is every kind of sub vertical within the industry, but also every company, they have different struggle points, right? Different areas are
Exactly.
like, ah, shit, I'm having issues with this, whether it's a pricing, whether it's data, how do I scale with technology, right?
Exactly.
Historically, we've been in a place where it's kind of not the good old boy system, but it's kind of like, handshakes and long term partnerships, from the WDs and manufacturers. And we're seeing technology just disrupt this entire beast. And largely, there's knowledge that's not really up to speed, right? We have some folks that are really forward and we have some that are lagging. And what it's doing is it's paralyzing decision making when it comes to the digital age.
Yep.
I'm not going to
Yep.
name his name, but I was sitting in a meeting with a big CEO, um, and we were talking about the future of tech, talking about the future of parts commerce, how to compound growth, and the response back to me was point blank. Listen, I just don't know the technology side of this business.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why we're
Exactly.
here.
And that's where
Lucas?
you and I are really good. You know what I mean? It's getting you're much more knowledgeable on the technology side, than what I am. So that's why this is going to be really great because right now it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all for any business. I think every sort of business, whether you're a dealer, manufacturer, or a distributor, you've all got your unique challenges. And that's why this is going to be really great because, we're talking to these people on a daily basis and we're hearing their different struggles. But I think to our audience here, it's going to benefit them so much hearing, the different perspectives, what's working for them. Oh, e-commerce, is really great for us. And how's the brick and mortar doing? And why are they adding all these extra sales channels, these extra layers? So I think that's going to be key for our audience to hear the different perspectives, what's working, what's not working. And No, that's why I think it's going to be
Well, and
incredible.
that's a great point, Lucas. And I think I'll parlay into the what we're here for. If you're listening to this podcast and you want a platform to come out, whether it's educational, whether it's about the struggles of what you're doing from your tech side, from your growth side, we know that digital is interconnected and it's going to
Yep.
be. If you're
Yep.
not digitally connected, you need to at least begin to take steps. Whether you
Yep.
know nothing or you know something, that's exactly why we're here, to your point, because every sub vertical, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a small WD that potentially is the old kind of Motocraft Delco model and you haven't diversified, we want to hear from you, right?
Yep.
Because there's
Yep.
ways to help propel you and your business forward through digital technology. And so, from our listeners, if you're in any of those verticals and you're like, look, man, we've been sitting on this and we're just unsure, reach out, right? That's what we
Yep.
do.
Exactly.
Have so much knowledge and expertise of what we do. Granted, we're not claiming we know everything because no one does,
Yep.
but what we really want to do is just take this platform and enrich it to the maximum capacity with all of the sub verticals. Let's learn from everything, right? And then bring it
Yep.
together. And boom, now we have best in class decisions for your technology. These are solutions that work.
Exactly.
These are solutions that failed. So I think you're dead
Yep.
on, Lucas, about that. And really, what we're after here. And quite frankly, it's pretty damn exciting in my
Because it
opinion.
can be, I think, for a lot of these guys, they're intimidated. I mean, including myself. When you start talking about all these different online platforms, different selling channels, and you're thinking, well, what do I need technology wise? The infrastructure for one thing. Number two, what extra staff do I need? How do I manage it? How does all this come together online? Is it going to be more complicated? Is it going to cost me more in overhead cost? Is it going to, so I think hearing this, from us who had the experience, but also guys who have been down that path. That, and Gideon, we've seen it. Guys that are starting
Oh,
at zero and just within years, like let's say 1 to 2 years, blowing it up so that they're doing millions. Through their online parts platform and stuff like that. And just hearing their experience and giving our listeners kind of the confidence to say, right, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. And here's exactly how I did it. There's no secrets, there's no behind the scenes stuff. This is exactly what worked for me. And you might listen to us next week with our next guest, and a completely different path work for that particular person. But then you'll kind of explore, well, this is what I'm comfortable with now. Let's start small. Let's go incremental. Let's not, you don't need to start out spending $50,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. You don't need to start incrementally, start small. But our guests are going to go through that, and I think it's going to be incredible for anybody, any business that wants to listen to this podcast. If you're just a small business up to enterprise level, we're going to have guests that'll cover a variety of topics.
yeah, that's a good point, Lucas. And it brings actually an experience that I just had. I was in a meeting with, again, I would say they're kind of 10 to 12 million dollar company, and with the owner, right, and the president of that company. And hey, 10 to 12 million bucks is, I'm not going
Yeah,
to turn away that. That's, hey, you built a
absolutely.
great business. He started out
Yep.
as just a pure service lane in that Jeep market, and he expanded it. And
Yep.
obviously there's enterprise up to the multi-billion dollars, and we have experience with those guys, right? We've got
Yep.
some expertise that we'd love to share. But it brings me to that my conversation with them, right? Owner of a company, started out as a tech, opened up his own shop, got into the parts game of the business, went into the digital. He's built this business to where majority of his sales, about 70% were online, doing very good. I'm not going to snub at that. Excellent job, right? Let me tell you exactly what happened. He calls me. We have a good meeting. Great guy. Great guy. And he says, look, Gideon, I think I'm up a creek, man, and I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
I said, well, let's go through it. Let's go deep into what the issues. He goes in. He brought in a developer, right, to help engineer and build out his tech solutioning, right. So he goes in. I'm not going to share the platform that they built on. He builds the platform. Things are going great, right. There's just a lot of stuff that he's liking because he's coming from a non-tech background. He's coming from more the business background, the parts side, the tech, the service lane, and from a small business north of 10 million.
Yep.
Not going to turn my eye on. He says, I have a major problem. My engineer that I have hired to develop out my e-commerce just quit.
Right.
He said, I don't know what the fuck he did. I
Right.
like some things, but I don't know anything about the tech side. He goes, I'm screwed.
Yep.
I'm completely screwed. I can't do anything. I'm not a tech guy by nature.
Yep.
And so it's very, very common, right, for that use case to happen in that small business where now you got to go out and you got to go hire somebody else.
Yep.
And then when you hire a new, developer, you may pay them 80, 90, 100, 150 grand a year, and they may just be unhappy one day and they're gone.
Yep.
And we're seeing this at every single level, whether you're small, medium, large enterprise, from $1 million up to multi-billions. We're seeing this across the board. Your technology department becomes an extension of your business. When they leave, you have a gap. We're seeing a lot of partnerships where technology platforms are an extension of your business, to where it's almost kind of like, okay, if the tech platform has turnover, you still have the tribal knowledge. You just have to have somebody come in and pick some stuff up and go. You don't have to hire in a new developer. So to your
No,
point, I mean,
automation is so key.
yeah,
Automation is so key now. You want to be, long gone are the days where you get somebody walking into your parts counter, into a brick and mortar store, ordering some, from your parts guy. I mean, that's painful and slow and not effective. And people just aren't doing that anymore. They're expecting, like Amazons and all these guys shipping stuff immediately, stuff to show up at the door within a day. They want customer service immediately, where you can go online, pick up the telephone, call somebody, get somebody immediately if they have a question, a concern, and need an answer. Um, so all those things is you want to build that, and you want to build the automation and your platforms, but also you want to keep a close relationship. And while saying that, transfer to the technological side of things. But again, it's still up to, I believe, the dealerships and the manufacturers to maintain that consumer trust. You still have to have that relationship with your customers at the exact same time. So don't lose that by thinking, we're going to go digital, and just because we build a website, then suddenly everybody's going to suddenly flock to us just because we threw a website, on the internet, and now we're amazing. You still need to keep that consumer trust and build those relationships and harness them and nurture them. But
well, and
yeah,
I
don't,
think that brings a good point, Lucas, because when we look at the historical perspective of the industry, right? Let's just take a step back for 1 second and understand the pillars of the industry. You have the manufacturers, the owner of the IP, right? Manufacturers are building great products. Their R&D, their budget, their investments go into building great products that ultimately don't fail, right?
Yep.
You have your distribution, which we commonly refer to as a WD, warehouse distributor. They buy in, hundreds of different products, and they ultimately sell shelf space. But they hit every small nick and cranny, right? They hit all your repair shops and your facilities and anything where a repair is happening. So if you look at the historical context, the WD and the manufacturer were very close because largely technology was not a part in the 90s, right? 90s and early 2000s. The tech stack was not very, very large. Okay. And so what you see, if you look at the historical perspective of kind of your point, closing that loop from a customer perspective, is now you have your e-tailers. That's when Amazon, right? They got their start in the late 90s, right? Early 2000s. They started making a little bit of momentum with books. Remember being in college back in the day,
Yep.
going on
Of
Amazon and
course.
getting like
Yeah, of
$30
course.
book. You're like, fuck yeah, I got a new book. It's awesome,
Absolutely.
right?
How cool is this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're like, oh, this is great. Yeah, screw my bookstore. They suck. I'm getting jammed for
Exactly.
250, and I can get so. And so then we saw, the Rock Autos, right? Got their launch late 90s. We see the
Yep.
car IDs. We see all of the autoplicity.com. You start to see these tech marketplaces pop up. Well, why did they pop up? They popped up because there was a gap in the automotive parts industry from manufacturer to distributor. They were purely
Yep.
B2B. So they basically overlook that DIY, that small repair shop that just wants the part and needs to get his car off the bay. So
Yep.
over the last 2 decades, we've seen these e-tailers and they're
Yep.
technology companies at the end of the day. The major gap with those e-tailers is they don't own any product,
Yep.
right? They own no
Yep.
product, therefore they don't have control over the pricing. So over time, that WD e-tailer relationship has become closer, and as just was the manufacturer and distributor. What's the future?
Yep.
As we look over the years, technology has improved, and manufacturers are now starting to say, hey, why don't we go out, create that direct consumer experience, capture that 30% layer of DIY, that Amazon rock business, right?
Yep.
But then just connect it into the WD just as the e-tailer has. And
Exactly.
so
Yep.
there's so many components that we're looking at the historical context and we're like, yeah, that's why that happened, because it makes
Exactly.
sense, because that was the business structure and relationship. So
Yep.
we're going to dive
Yep.
into all this. I know this is just like a
Yep.
tip of the iceberg, but as you
No,
can
I
tell,
think this is a good overview for them because consumers are just so knowledgeable now.
oh
Whether it comes to
yeah,
parts or even vehicles. I mean, you look at, let's just say, if we're talking about car dealerships. If I'm walking into a car dealership now compared to when I used to buy cars when I was younger, before I even go into the dealership, I know everything about the car. I might know more than the salesman about the car when I walk into a dealership. I know exactly what different models it has, what different features it comes with, what the price should be, what the price is online, what the price is in this city versus this city. I know everything likely before I walk into that dealership. So the roles are completely changing. It's a very educated consumer. So and that's why it's so important that any of these organizations they keep on they keep that in mind, understanding there's a very educated public out there that knows what they're looking for, and so they need to be on the cutting edge of all this stuff because the public's not going to be fooled anymore. You can't they can't walk in anywhere and be charged double the price, exorbitant price, because
right.
they've got an idea already in their head before they walk in there what they're willing to pay. um,
There's a lot
and
of
they're just not going to
information
accept
that's
anything.
out there. I agree. There's so much information that's out in the marketplace. It's
Yep.
either you're enhancing it and growing, or you're suppressing it and you're losing market share. And I'll
Yep.
bring the example. Shoot, Lucas, you probably know. Imagine when you were, when we were younger, right? We're gonna age ourselves a little bit here, but remember when you were younger and you walk into a parts store with like your dad,
Right.
and like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you go in there and there's this like
Right.
guy behind the counter and he's got, it
Right. Right.
smells like a 25
Yes.
day pack of
Smoking a
cigarettes.
cigarette.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, dude. And he's
Right.
got
Yeah.
like the
Right.
like the ashtray
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
and it's just right next to you, and it's just like, dude,
I do miss
who
that.
even
I do miss
who?
that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, who does this shit? And then
Right.
like you
Yeah.
go in
Yeah.
and like you're like, all right, I have an 86 or whatever, I have a 91,
Right.
Buick Regal, and I got to get it up, and he's just like plugging away on some old computer, and then he's like, "Arp," and then he's like, doesn't even talk to you at all, and then he just
Right.
marches to the back and grabs something and comes up and he's
Right.
like, "Yep, that'll do it," and it's like a
Yeah. Yeah.
champion spark plug or something like that. You're
Right.
like, how the fuck did
Exactly.
he know
Exactly.
this? Like what? Who?
Exactly.
And little did I know, I'm gonna just be like, we're gonna be just deep into this industry, love the industry, and now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, look at the difference, right? Look what technology's
Exactly.
done just in that 30 years. But
That's right.
you know,
Yeah.
so I think we're going to continue to compound those efforts at such an aggressive rate. I mean, we're seeing it. Look at the last 5 years. The last
Yeah. Of
5 years,
course.
tech
Yep.
has changed. I
Sure.
mean, unbelievable.
Yep. Yep.
I'll tell you this, and I think when we start, and we're shifting topics a little bit, but when we look at the OE side of the business, look at what Mopar's doing.
Yep.
Mopar is scrappy as hell, right? They're forward thinkers. They've in essence, if you go to their direct to consumer site, store.mopar.com, go on there, type on there, they've in essence connected like 500 dealers to
Right.
basically fulfill for their direct consumer, right, program. So when you
Yep.
look at these things that are like, okay, so they're actually going direct, but they're not fulfilling out of their own facilities. They're fulfilling out of their franchise dealer facilities. When we
Mhm.
look at these models and how they're basically just paving the way, it's incredible, right? And
Yep.
So, I think the future is really going to be bright. I think we're going to see a lot of changes. Um,
Yep.
but it's important that we just air out the luggage, from everybody's perspective, man. Let's give the good, bad, and ugly, and then let's
Absolutely.
solution backwards. So
Exactly, exactly. No, 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 and I think just the value of the guests that we have coming up on this show, it's going to be amazing because I think a lot of them are going to connect together, or via our chats and stuff like that, that we're going to have live, while we're on the podcast. We'll see some of the questions coming in that we can respond to or have our guests respond to, and then I think a lot of even connections are going to be made. You might be a manufacturer, you might be a seller, an e-tailer, or something like that, and you're going to see a guest on our show and think, wow, if I could talk to that guy, he could really help my business, or I could really benefit his business. I think it's all about connection building now. We talk about technology, but we don't want to dehumanize, I think, the industry either. The connections are still equally, if not more important now than ever. Um,
I think
Not
you're
just
so
the
true on that,
technology.
man. I've said that so much. I mean, look what is here, right? We're
Yeah,
doing a podcast. We're not sitting in the same room, right? Yeah,
exactly.
we're old
Exactly.
homies, but we're not sitting in the same room. Here we are on a tech platform, but I agree. I've always said you cannot dehumanize the human connection. That's what we
Exactly.
live off of. That's what
Yep.
that's what makes shit happen at the end of the day. And I think
Yep.
it's important that we continue to kind of think about that when we look at the industry. Sure, we're
Yep.
layering on technology, right?
Right.
We're layering on technology and we're looking at manufacturers, okay, having a direct consumer program, but then tying in all of their distribution network, right? Enabling their e-tailers to walk into, a position where boom, they can be up, get it, up to speed and get to market very quickly and grow multi-million dollar plus businesses through
Yep.
technology, but we cannot dehumanize that connection and that relationship and that human piece of it, because that's what moves the needle.
Exactly. Exactly. No, and I think, just this brief discussion, that we're doing right now, Gideon, obviously to our listeners, our viewers right now, this is our very first episode. We're just kind of giving you guys an overview, what you can expect, in the weeks and months and years kind of to come with our podcast. We're going to be kicking out quite a few episodes coming out here within the next couple of weeks. And again, I don't want to kind of spill the beans per se yet, Gideon. I don't want to on who our upcoming guests are, but we're going to throw out some quick little teaser videos as well. So again, make sure you're subscribing to our LinkedIn channel, Auto Trends, same as on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. Again, this is going to be our first one we're posting up there. We know that there's not a lot of content there right now, but make sure you like and subscribe now, because as soon as we start throwing out these videos, you'll have first access to it, and they're going to kind of be coming fast and furious because we're getting a lot of requests. Can we be on the show? And again, if you're listening now and you want to be on the show, like Gideon said, reach out to us. The more the merrier. We're happy to provide as much content as we possibly can, for you guys to share what's going on in the industry. And we're just passionate about it. We like doing it. Gideon and I aren't sitting here because we're making millions. We're gonna make millions on YouTube. We're just passionate about it, and we want to share with you guys.
Well, and I think that's it, Lucas. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think both of us, for whatever reason, we've always shared the same goals and objective, is to move the industry forward in a position that benefits, you know, everyone from the manufacturers, distributors, but ultimately
Correct.
the consumers, right? That single mother, man,
Exactly.
that single father, they're just trying to get their vehicle back up and running and back on the road so they can go make a living, right? And I think when we look at technology, that's the enablement piece. We've all gone
Yep.
through good, bad, ugly. We all know there's struggle points. There's areas that I could do better. We tried this, whatever. We want to hear from you, right? We want to
Yep.
talk about it.
Yep. Yep.
And so we want to share our expertise. And I think, this is kind of just the foundation of diving into helping equip consumers with better decision making, right? OE versus aftermarket as an example, right? How do I know
Yep.
when to buy aftermarket? Well, how is OE? Well, most
Yep.
of the consumers don't know that your aftermarket manufacturers have OE contracts and they're the same product, just
Right.
different labels, right? And
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
want to equip all this information. Um, but
Yep.
but but more importantly, man, from manufacturers and distributors and sellers perspective, there's some best practices. There's some things that we know work. We see it on a daily basis. Multi hundreds of millions of dollars a bit of successful operating businesses in the e-commerce space in the parts world, and that's what we're here to do. And so
Yeah.
we just
And
want to
staying
continue to
ahead of
share
the,
ourselves.
and staying ahead of the ball, exactly, getting exactly what you had said, because when you try and stay ahead, if we were talking about this exact same issue 2 years ago, our topics right now, we'd be talking about probably something completely different, or just a little bit off the mark. Whereas, let's say now, we're looking at the implementation of AI. How is that affecting everything? How is that affecting manufacturers, distributors, even e-tailers, down to the dealership level or down to the garage, using AI. And I know that we've got episodes coming up with AI, experts and people that are already
Totally.
implementing, AI.
Yep.
But, by using AI to determine, I've got this particular customer, there's a pattern with their ordering. Now their car is suddenly, 14 years old. All this stuff is going wrong. And AI is, able to look at it and say, okay, right, here's kind of, what their issue is. Are they in for a new car? Should the dealership, instead of trying to sell them parts, should the dealership be more focused on selling them a brand new vehicle at this point? Or, and again, I don't want to dive too deep into it because that's an upcoming episode with an expert, but just trends like that you want to stay ahead of, that might not be, something everybody's implementing now, but 6 months to a year down the road, you don't want to be left behind that. You
Totally.
don't want to say, oh geez, I wish I would have done that a year ago, because now our competition down the road has already done this and now we're playing catch up.
Well, and I think to your point, when we start to look at AI, it's a dangerous game, right?
Yep.
But if it's used properly, I think it's a competitive advantage. And I know that we're looking at, when we think of AI, we're constantly looking at macro trends, right?
Yep.
We're looking at
Yep.
decision making. A good
Exactly.
example, when you look at the price at the online game in the parts world, is the ability to go out and aggregate competitor pricing in real time to give
Yep.
you indications as a seller, increase price because maybe there's a national back order on these parts, right? Profitability
Exactly.
opportunity, or
Yep.
decrease price and you're leaving X millions of product of sales on the table because market is showing X, right?
Yep.
That's really the tip of the iceberg when we look at AI, and AI, it's a trigger, it's a buzzword, right? But
Yep.
if it's
Of course.
used properly, I think as we go deeper into that topic of AI, automotive parts, technology, we can really kind of have a forward thinking conversation and say, look, if you compound these best practices with your business and then you layer on the AI,
Exactly.
there's your competitive advantage. There's your differentiator.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else,
Excellent.
Lucas?
No, I
Anything else
think,
you might
I think
miss?
this is kind of a good overview for you guys, listening in. And I think, you kind of get a gist of where we're going. We're here to support you. Again, reach out to us with anything, even if you don't want to be a guest on the show, but you just have a question and say, have you talked to a manufacturer lately? Or what's going on with manufacturers that you've talked to, or what's going on distributors that, you've talked to? Feel free to reach out to myself or Giddy with any question you may have. It doesn't have to be related necessarily to our podcast, but anything about the auto industry. And if we can connect you with the right partner or the right person, then we're happy to do so.
No doubt, no doubt. I think that's really it's about you. We're just doing the Lord's work, baby, as some people would say.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're here for a
Yep.
purpose, but we're here for the industry, and this is all about you at the end of the day. And so, any ways that we can help connect and bring this together and share with our expertise, we will. But
Exactly.
with that said, Lucas, I think that's all I've got.
Yep.
Looking forward to episode 2. So, as you know,
Absolutely. Like
subscribe.
and subscribe. Yep. Send us a message, reach out, you, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next episode.
See you guys.